This is Support is Sexy, episode 36, with author and co-founder of The Grown Zone, Zara Green. Welcome to the Support is Sexy podcast. I'm your host, Elayne Fluker, entrepreneur, author, producer, and founder of H.E.R Rebellion Media. 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, I talk to women entrepreneurs who share their journeys and the true stories of their wins and their lessons, and give you insight and inspiration to take your business and your life to the next level. Here we go. Hi, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Support is Sexy. I am so happy to have you here because you know it just would not be the same without you. So today we are welcoming Ms. Zara Green. Zara is author and co-founder of The Grown Zone with her husband, Alfred Edmond Jr. And on today's episode, Zara talks to us about relationships, how to embrace our power, how to really live a full, complete, fulfilled life. Some of the things she talks about is realizing that not everybody is going to like you, that you should be honest with yourself about what your relationship is with whatever person, and this could be a spouse, a partner, or even a family member, such as a parent. How to be who you're meant to be, the power of permission. We all have a good, bad, and ugly side. Why mistake is a myth and failure is fiction, which I thought was a great phrase and something to remember. How your nature can trip you up, and also why you need to stop believing the lies that hold you back. So we get into a lot in this episode. I know you're going to enjoy it. So without further ado, Zara Green. So Zara, thank you so much for joining us on an episode of Support is Sexy. I'm happy to have you, as you know.
I'm thrilled to be here, as you know.
Fantastic. So I have to ask you, when did you first fall in love with entrepreneurship?
Oh boy, that happened very, very early on because I come from a family of entrepreneurs. So my father he's been a lifelong barber, but he also had so many other businesses. So I've never seen my father work for anybody. Yet he's a self-made man and has done exceptionally well as an entrepreneur. And so early on, I was figuring out ways to make money. And so when I had my first job, which was a television job, actually, my first real job, I said, you know what? This isn't really for me.
What age was that? Was that when you just after school, or?
Well, my first job was as a senior in high school. I went to high school half the day. The other half, I went to NBC television affiliate where I worked. And because I was being groomed for television. Mm-hmm. And it was there that I knew, as much as I'm here and as much as I'm probably going to follow this path, this 9 to 5 or however many hours, especially in television and no time off and all of that, this thing isn't for me.
Right. What was it about it? Is it because you think you saw the work, how your father was able to work sort of freely in his own way, or was it just something in you, or both?
It was both. The main thing was having the ability to create my own, not just business, but generate as much income as I wanted to. So it was interesting to me early on because, as I said, my father always had 3 to 5 different businesses going at once. So he was a barber all the time, but he also had hauling services. He was he did exterminating. He went, the pest control.
Right.
He fixed televisions. So he always had all these different trades in order to have other stuff going on. So he was always working. But never doing anything he didn't want to do. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so for me, it was figure out what it is you really enjoy and then figure out how to make money at it. And interestingly, that's changed every decade because things have changed. Right. So I have to figure out new ways to do exactly that.
I love that. So now you're originally from Louisiana, right?
Yes, I am. New Orleans.
New Orleans. So is your family affected at all by the recent floods in Baton Rouge? Because I know you had some family there too.
Not my immediate family. My immediate family, everybody's in New Orleans. I'm the only one who's ever moved. Okay. So everybody is in New Orleans and they're fine.
Good, good. Glad to hear that.
Yeah,
Now,
me too.
what was Zara like as a little girl? I can only imagine.
Every time somebody asks that question, I think about my mother because I was very difficult for my mother. I was a very, very busy child.
Mm,
I say all the time, if ADHD were popular back then, they would have pumped me with Ritalin
right.
because I was that child, and I am still very much so that person. I mean, personality wise, I'm very sanguine and choleric.
Mm-hmm.
And for a mother who is mostly phlegmatic and melancholy, then that's difficult. So
Mm-hmm.
so Zara was very inquisitive and busy and asked a lot of questions and was just interested in everything. So and very tactile and kinesthetic. So I needed to touch in learning.
Mm-hmm.
So as a child, I was very busy and very athletic, and so I needed to be involved in stuff all the time, and I was. My parents made sure I was in dance and taking tennis lessons and played sports, and so I did a whole lot as a child with extracurricular.
And it sounds like that natural curiosity too may have led you to the career of at first thinking about television or and even doing what you do now, which we're going to talk about later, but being in front of the camera and really delivering a message to people and having that sort of exchange and just being involved, as you said.
Absolutely. As a child and growing up in New Orleans, what I knew was that I needed to do something that was platform.
Mm,
I knew that early on. It was early on. My linguistic skills were very strong, and everybody noticed them. So even though I grew up in New Orleans, I've never really had a what they call New Orleans accent
mm-hmm.
or New Orleans drawl. When I get around my people, then some of
It
the
comes
same.
out.
Yes, well, some of the colloquialisms come out, but I've always had strong linguistic skills. So, and my father was one who recognized it, noticed it. And my father does too. He has an eighth grade education, but you'd never know it by speaking, well, if you ever had conversation with him. So, daddy, even though he might not have known the correct way things needed to be said, his ear always knew it had hit him wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So he'd make me correct myself. He'd say, correct that. So he was always on me about it. So in New Orleans, the closest thing that I knew to platform was doing television news. I later figured out that the platform skills were more than, and I had more options than just doing television news.
Right.
So I've since done a whole lot of other things and still doing a lot of other things, but that was really why that became my goal.
Now, to go back, you mentioned that you started working at the TV station in high school. How did you even though you didn't continue that career, how did you go about getting that position? Because you obviously knew at an early age this is something you wanted to do as far as finding a platform. But how does one take the step in high school, especially years ago? Only a few years ago, though, because you're just out of high school. What was that first step?
All of this was daddy. It really was. Daddy, as a barber and in his community, if anybody was going to get elected, they had to come to him.
Mm-hmm.
So he had some influence. Daddy was a pillar in the community, and he used it. So when they came to him for things, he went to them for things. And my father would always tell me, he said, "Baby, I can help you go to school. I can pay for you to go to school. I can do those things. But at some point, you're going to get to a point that Daddy can no longer help you. So I'm going to push it as far as I can take it. And then you have to take this ball and run with it."
Mm-hmm.
And so whatever I thought I wanted, Daddy tapped every resource he knew. He knew all the people in City Hall, and all the people in City Hall knew him. And as a pillar in the community, when people in the community needed things, they came to him. So he tapped the judges when people, even when people got in trouble and they needed some leniency, then he was the one that had the leverage to go and do that as a barber in the community. So Daddy went to in fact, it was the mayor's office. He knew the people in the mayor's office. Daddy said, "I don't know those people at those television stations, but this is what my baby needs to be able to do."
I love that. Your dad
And
knew The power of connections even back then. And like you said,
Absolutely.
he eighth grade education, but he's a smart man, even if not an educated man. And so many of our ancestors or people before us were like that. And your dad, wow, that's powerful.
I say all the time, a lot of people have degrees and intellect has gotten them there, but intellect does not necessarily equal smart.
Mm-hmm.
My father is smart, and he's known how to maneuver and get whatever he's needed, and he's always been able to do that.
I love that. Now, are you an only child?
I am not. I'm the youngest child.
You're the youngest. It's the same thing. I'm
I'm
not.
the I'm the youngest, and there's a gap between
Right. Me
my
too.
next sibling.
Right.
So I always felt like an only child, actually.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Now, who were your greatest influences growing up?
Oh wow, it's gonna sound like a broken record in a moment, but my daddy,
Mm-hmm.
but also my mother, but in a different kind of way. So usually when people think about influencers, then it's those who positively impacted them. Well, I didn't realize until much later in life that every experience and every person who influences you is influencing you for purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And so my relationship with my mother was very difficult. In fact, my entire life. My mother and I came to a truce about 15 years ago that we are very different people and that we're going to respect the differences. And in that respecting the differences, then we were then able to have a decent relationship. But it was a very trying relationship my entire life. So my mother was an influencer because and I talk about this because there are so many people who know what this is, but everybody's telling them that it should be different. And I'm saying, whatever your relationship is with whomever, it is what it is and embrace it for what it is. So I knew what it was as a child to absolutely, without any doubt at all, know what it is to be loved by her mother, but also with that same certainty to know what it was to not be liked by her
Mm.
mother.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you think it was because, I'm sorry to interrupt, were you going to say something else about
No,
that?
no, come on, it's okay.
I was just going to say, do you think that it was either because of who your mother was as a woman, or was it in part too just because your personality was so different?
It was both because of who my mother was, um, and her lack of understanding individuality, which is why, and here comes the purpose, because I'm an author three times. My first two audiobooks are on temperament. I needed to understand individuality. I needed to understand how a mother could have a child that she disliked. I needed to understand how I could be so different from my siblings. I needed to understand how three children of two parents who kept us very close, all three of us could be so different. I needed to understand that. So I think it was in part because of my mother's personality and who she was, and but it was also because I am so different, but I am so close to who my daddy is and my daddy's personality. And so we were so close from the time she spat me out. I, we were just boon coons, as we call it in New Orleans, as
Right.
thick as thieves. And that's difficult for many women who long for certain things from their husbands that they see their husbands so freely given to a child, especially a girl child.
Mm.
I didn't understand those dynamics as a child. But what that taught me um, growing up was it's okay not to be liked. Everybody's not going to like you.
Right.
And if my own mother did not like me, and it took me a long time to get to the point of she has a right not to like, even if it's the person she spat out. She has the right.
Now, how did you come to that? Because that's a major awareness and understanding, and I'm sure it happened over time. Like you said, you just came to a truce 15 years ago. But how did you and how does one come to that point, especially when it's someone that you you imagine, or as you said, are constantly told, no, this person though is supposed to like you, is supposed to love you. How did you get to that point?
Now, if my mother was sitting here, she would tell you it's not true that I didn't like you. But if I started to point out all the different times that you wouldn't do this to somebody you liked, and able to point out all those things that as a child, because no child forgets the experiences with a parent that are not good, that are uncomfortable, that are, if you liked me, then why would you do this to your child? Well, and that's why personal growth became so important to me, and why I teach it, and it became what I needed to go and do, because in my 20s is when I turned the corner on that. My mid 20s was when I looked back and said, she could not do any more than she did. I could not expect any more. Nobody can give you what they don't have. Right. My mother did not have the capacity to look beyond the things that made me a difficult child for her, to see the beauty in those things that she saw as difficult. But it's all those things that made me who I am, and that makes me the strong individual that I am, particularly a woman with a lot of the tendencies that, if you're listening to society, says only men have.
Right.
And women are supposed to not have or put a cap on. And I am screaming from the mountaintops, women, don't you dare shrink in the face of anybody else, particularly a man who says you have to become less than so that I can feel more of.
I love that. You better preach, Zara Green. Afternoon. I cannot write down fast enough, but you're right.
And it's really where it's where women light up. Mm-hmm. When I'm teaching and in an audience of women, I have given women permission to be who they are and to not dare be anything less than. And if a man can't handle that, that ain't your man. Now I'm going to teach you how to be what you need to be in order to attract a man that appreciates you.
I love that. I always say be who you're meant to be, not who you're quote unquote supposed to be.
That's it. Or who other people tell you you're supposed to be, or what institutions tell you you're supposed to be. Because a lot of that was my issue too. That just kept me small because I was trying to be with society and indoctrinate, and what organizations were trying to indoctrinate me to be. And they were successful for a long time. But when I shook it loose, girl, ooh-wee.
Now let's talk about the power of permission, because I think that's something that a lot of us are sort of waiting for, even though we didn't know or don't know that we're waiting for it. Like you mentioned when you're speaking at engagements, or when you just tell someone your story and they're like, oh, I can do whatever that thing is too, however people share it. So tell me about the power of permission for yourself and what you see it does for other women.
It's freedom. It is absolute freedom to come to a place where all of the, well, let's first talk about some of the things that women in our society are supposed to be. We're supposed to be seen and not heard. We're supposed to be meek and mild. We're supposed to, in some circles, be submissive. We're supposed to be docile. We're supposed to, although we won't say it, we accept that we are supposed to be secondary in terms of hierarchies. Mm-hmm. And I'm saying, if you're going to ever be everything that you are supposed to be, you better kick all that to the curb. All that. Just right. Kick all that to the curb, because you can never fully spread your wings and fly as high as you can, and when you've got stuff trimming them constantly.
Wow. I love that. Now, how does your natural, you talked about it some, but your natural skills, abilities, things that were just a part of you translate into the business that you've created now with writing your books and having the Grown Zone, which we'll talk more about. But how did you discover that those things would translate into that? And then how does it all work together?
Wow, what a great question. So let me first talk about my natural my natural temperament and tendencies. which are in terms of sanguine and choleric. First, I gotta have fun with whatever I do. If it's not fun, it ain't worth it to me. I've got to be able to have some fun. Secondly, I have to be able to um, drive much of the direction of how things are going. Because, um, and I say drive, to some that might sound like control. They're different, although of the same coin. Um, I don't have to have control, but I do have to give direction.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that makes sense and distinguish. Um, and what's important to me is that every person recognizes that we all have good, bad, and ugly. And there is nothing broken or wrong with any of us. None of us need fixing. What we all need to do is to accept what we are, the good, the bad, and the ugly. There's a lot of us that by nature, and it's all of us, it's just how the world works, it's how we're built. And if we didn't have all of that, then there would be no need to grow and learn. But with every experience and every encounter, then we become more of ourselves. There's more of ourselves that's revealed. There's more of ourselves that we begin to understand if we're looking for it. If we're not, then we become defensive. Then we try and change some things. We cover things up. We're ashamed of different things about ourselves. And I'm saying if we can embrace it all, and when other people see it, say, you know what? You're right. That is me.
Right.
Because I was free when I was able to accept that when somebody comes to me and says, you know, Zara, you really hurt my feelings with that. You straight up just told me something that, you know, I think there was a better way you could have said that. I no longer say that is not true. I stopped that 20 years ago. I say, you know what? Tell me what I did. Tell me what I did. Help me to tell me what I gave you, because it doesn't mean that I didn't mean it. Because if I said it, darn it, I meant it. Because that's what I know about me. If I said it, I meant it. But I do need to. I can say what I mean what I say, but I don't have the right to be mean when I say it.
Oh, that's a good one. I'm going to write that down. That is a really good one.
That's what assertiveness is. That's my definition of assertiveness.
I can say what I give it to me again.
I can say what I mean what I say, but I don't have the right to be mean when I say it.
I love that. And did you come to that awareness just because you started being, as you said, 20 years ago, more open to, just to put it in one word, feedback from people and being able to receive it, even if you didn't agree with it?
Well, I came to that when I fully accepted myself, late 20s, when I fully accepted the good, the bad, and the ugly, when I no longer felt the need to defend any parts of me, when it was okay with me that I can be abrupt with my conversation, with that I will stop people in their tracks, that it is true that I will body slam people with my words, you know. Those things are realities for who I am. That's the truth. I'm capable of all of those things.
So it's knowing your power.
It is absolutely knowing what I'm capable of. What does that capacity bowl look like? So that when somebody tells me that I wasn't nice at some point, they were absolutely right. I was not nice.
Accept that, right?
I accept that I was not nice, and if I need to apologize for it, I apologize without any caveats, without any ifs. No, I apologize that I spoke to you in that way. Now, can we talk about what happened?
Right.
Right. So it's so that it's not. I don't want you to get this twisted. It's not that something did not happen in that we need to we need to hash out. because I'm all about clearing the air. That's another thing about my personality. That's most people who are very direct. They don't like to carry stuff over. They want to sleep well at night. I have no issues going to bed. There is nothing that is swimming around in my psyche. Oh, I wish I'd said that. Oh, and if they've done it, I wish I don't have no wish list of how I wish I'd handled nothing because now I would have felt more empowered. I don't have that.
Right. You don't carry that.
I don't care because I usually go too far.
Right. Right. But that's empowering too, just as also as women, because so many of us keep things in, which leads to stress, which leads to anxiety, which leads to so many other things. My mom, you sound like my mother. She actually says that too. Maybe she's from Alabama. Maybe it's a Southern woman thing. But she says, I say what I mean and I don't carry it with me and I go to bed happy. And there's always some
exactly
issues,
it.
but it won't be because she didn't say what was on her mind.
Me and mama can hang.
No. One of your trademark phrasings and teachings is the next decision better.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, do you think too many of us focus on our mistakes from past decisions?
Well, one of the things that we teach in the Grown Zone is mistake is a myth and failure is fiction.
What does that mean?
It means that there is no such thing as a mistake. We're all doing the best we can all the time. Even when you think you've made a mistake, even when you think you knew better, there's a difference between mental ascension and ability to actually apply. So you might mentally understand the thing, but that does not mean that that emotionally you actually know how to execute a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I call that a personal growth gap. So you're not making a mistake. You're missing it trying to make it. And so that's a difference. And when you have these kinds of things that are continually adjusting your attitude and your intention, then it's hard to carry stuff with you. It's hard to, carry things, say, oh, I wish I'd done that, and oh, I made a mistake. No, you did the best you knew. You did the best you could. And it wasn't a mistake, and you haven't failed at anything. Yeah, even what you think is a mistake is actually moving you further along because you're learning more about yourself. And at some point, maybe what you think is a mistake is just pressure and layers being added until you're willing to go learn something new so that you can actually have the tools to do something different.
And to make the next decision better.
To make your next decision better. Next decision better is always within reach. And it's never a disappointment. I can do better next time. And even if you don't absolutely do what you wanted to do, if your intent was to do better, then you've still done better because you have set a better intention.
You sort of raised the bar for yourself.
You're raising the bar for yourself. That's it.
I love that.
Me too.
So now tell us about, we've mentioned a couple times, I'm sure people want to know. Tell us about the Grown Zone, what it is, how it works, and what you're doing with it.
Oh, wow. The Grown Zone. Well, the Grown Zone has evolved. And in the beginning, I have the Grown Zone with my now husband, Alfred Edmond Jr. But he wasn't my husband when we started it. We were dating for over 6 years before we married. And we started the Grown Zone over 3 years ago, and it was just a Twitter page. Now, when I first got online, which was 9 years ago, when that was still MySpace and stuff, and before moving on, and then on to Facebook and Twitter, and so came on to all of those when they started too. Alfred was doing the same thing. He's coming on to all of these things. And I was always teaching personal growth. And I had what I call Punani principles. Yes, ladies, that's what y'all heard. Punani principles, where I really talked about how the decisions that we make sexually impact us mentally and emotionally, and why we really needed to be cognizant of the ties. And so I started a Facebook group, a Facebook page called Grown is Sexy, which is why I love Support is
Okay.
Sexy.
Yay. That's
So
right.
so I did that because I hated the term grown and sexy, because there was so much stuff people were saying is grown and sexy, and it was anything but grown. And I needed to distinguish that you might have the adult right to do something, but that doesn't mean the behavior is grown behavior. So that's kind of where that started. So I was doing the grown is sexy, and Alfred was doing a grown man knows tweets and things.
Right.
We didn't know each other, but people were seeing both of them, and they were so similar that people were saying, these people must know each other, and y'all must be doing this together. And then somehow he came over and went and took one of my assessments, my temperament assessments, and he shared it with everybody. And that's where we first became acquainted with each other and each
Ah.
other's work, but still never met each other for another few years. Never had a conversation, nothing, none of that. Well, about another year and a half or so, something like that. And when he came to New Orleans, and that's when I never spoke to him or anything until that moment.
Wow. So that's how the two of you met.
That's how we met.
And then
But
did you start, not to get all in the business, but then did you start dating shortly after that?
well, we spoke every single day after that first meeting.
Okay, so yeah, you basically were like,
So that's when that's when the spark started. But there were no sparks, no nothing. We just shared each other's content up until then.
right.
And then after being together for about 3 years, we started the Grown Zone as a Twitter page. And this started as how the Grown Zone started, huh? So so that's how the Grown Zone kind of started, because we said, okay, I'm doing my thing, you're doing your thing, and my husband, as you know, Elayne, is a personal finance and finance guy with Black Enterprise, and he'd been teaching all over the country for years the finance pieces, and what he realized was that it wasn't that people didn't know the how tos of money. It was the personal growth pieces that were stopping them from actually doing it.
Hmm.
And so when we came together, and I've been teaching personal development for years, and was on a speaking circuit with Skill Path, and was in a different city every day, and teaching communications, leadership, and interpersonal skills. So that's really where I've been for the past 20 years. And then we came together. That's how the Grown Zone was born. And we just kind of let it teach us what we needed to do, actually. And people started asking for more. So we do live trainings, we have retreats, we do online webinars, and we do personal coaching.
One of the quotes he said, you said, gaining lasting and meaningful wealth, happiness, and success is an inside job. And he said
Yes.
that's one of the things that he learned from you when he was thinking about this idea of having done, as you said, financial advice all these years and now looking at the personal growth piece. So it is exactly as you just said.
That is exactly right. It's an inside job. We're looking for external stuff. We're looking for somebody to complete us, which y'all know, no such. Um, looking for all of those external things when everything you need is right on the inside of you. So when you understand yourself at such an intimate way, then and you know what your needs are. You know what your desires are and where they come from and why you want them, and you really create the whys of the enough to get you there. Then there's nothing that's going to stop you as long as you keep going inside. It's when you go outside that you run into trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Happiness is an inside job. Peace is an inside job. Being completely fulfilled with whatever you think you lack is an inside job. And then once you have all of those things yourself and you establish the standards for your own treatment from those things, then you attract people who will agree with you.
Right.
Now, the opposite is true. If you have not done all those things, you attract people who agree with you.
Aha.
It works the same. Whatever you believe about yourself is what comes into your world.
Right.
However you believe you ought to be treated is what shows up in your world. No matter how much you protest, if you continue to get the same stuff, it's because it's somewhere in there, you've got a belief system that says that's what you deserve.
It's like people say you are the common factor in this equation that keeps
That's
coming
it.
up with the same answer.
You're the common denominator, baby. It's all about you.
That whole
And
it's not you, it's me. It is me.
absolutely.
Right.
Yes.
It really is me.
It really is me.
Right. You showed up because I, in many ways, brought you here.
Absolutely. And you know, having been married, this is my third marriage. Having been married twice before, both in my 20s, both times in my 20s, I don't look at those at the exes and say, oh, look at those terrible people. I look at me and say, who was I that I attracted? All of the exes that I've had. And I don't look at any of them and say how horrible any of them are. I look at all of them and say, who was I when I attracted them?
Right. Can I
What
tell
was
you?
going on with me?
Yeah. Can I tell you? I'm the same way in the respect that when I talk to people about past boyfriends and that kind of thing, I always say they were great guys, just wrong timing, wrong relationship. It was wrong for me to bring them into my life in this way. Whatever it was, it wasn't all about them or what they did wrong. To your point, it's like, well, who was I at that time? Because even now, most of them actually, I have great relationships with. I'm a different person. Most of them are who they always were. And I understand it differently. You know, you don't fault them or hate them, all of these things. But a lot of women are, I could never speak to my exes again, or I could never. And there's this blame thing going on. But I think it's also freeing when we can get to the point, as all of what you said, where you can say, this is who I was then. This is why it didn't work out. This is how I'll make, to go back to our phrase, the next decision better in my relationships in all ways.
That's it. Now I got to tell you, I'm not that chick. I have absolutely nothing to do with any of my exes.
Yeah,
nothing.
You're a
I am mad at them. Even before that, I ain't mad at them. When I'm done, I'm done.
Right.
That's how I am in life. When I was done with high school, I was done with it. I was never one who looked back and talked about the glory days. When I was done with college, I was done with it. When I was done with different jobs and different experiences, I was done with them. I'm just a forwardly focused kind of chick, and that's part of my temperament as well. Part of somebody who has a choleric nature, they're just on to the next. Right. They're not worried about spilled milk. They're not worried about what went wrong. They're just forwardly focused. What's happening here? I can't be looking back there, right, because I'll miss what's happening here. That's part of my makeup and my thinking.
And that's how you run into more mess, by looking backward, not paying attention where you're going, right?
Well, that's yeah. And the unfortunate thing is, for people who are of more of the melancholy and phlegmatic, which I call people oriented or task oriented. For people who are, and particularly those who are people oriented, they get in trouble all the time because their nature trips them up. They think they have to go back and make sure people are okay. They think that it makes them a bad person if they're not thinking about those people. And if they think they have to, if they're, praying people, I have to pray for them. You have to get focused on you, and you got to know when your nature is tripping you up.
That's powerful. Now, are all of these things and this great advice things that you teach as part of, I know, the workshops, but also the personal coaching piece? Because people
absolutely
get in touch.
There's no way to really move forward if you don't understand those things I just said. If you don't know who you are, your nature, you may have some success in your professional life, but your personal life is going to trip you up every time.
Mm-hmm. Now, how does one, because it's not like, or maybe it is, I won't say the answer, I'll ask a question. Is it possible to change your nature, or is it just possible to make sure you understand your nature and the blind spots and places you have to be aware of it?
Well, here's the thing. It's not necessary to change your nature. You can't change your nature. What you are responsible for is understanding your nature so that it works for you, not against you. And so that you control that bad and ugly. Mm-hmm. That's our responsibility. It's our only responsibility, really, is to understand ourselves enough to know when our nature is working for us, how it's worked against us, and when we're just completely out of control. Now we're good about looking at people who I call in the red zone, the sanguine choleric or the goal oriented and idea oriented people, and the extroverts, and say that they're out of control. But we don't look at the blue zone people and say that, the calmer, introverted people and think out of control. But you're out of control whenever you're allowing yourself to spiral into criticisms or depressions or any of those things that you haven't stepped up in your own nature to take to take care of you, to care for you in the ways that you need to. Usually what people do in those situations is blame others rather than take responsibility for what they've allowed. So it's not necessary to change yourself. It's necessary to accept yourself in order to be the driver of your life rather than be in the passenger seat.
I love it. Now, working in the business with your husband, although I know your husband, he's a fabulous man, but what is that like? How do you find the balance between the business and the love?
See, and this is why it's so important to know who you are and what you need. Because my husband is everything I am not, and he's everything that I need. So in business, it's no different than our personal lives. The way that we operate and the foundation that we believe any relationship has a chance of not just standing on, but being happy and good at, being healthy, is H.E.R, the acronym H.E.R, a relationship that is based on honor, esteem, and respect. That is what we are for each other. That's what we are for ourselves. And that's what we give each other all the time, unequivocally. There are no times when that's not the case. So when we talk about business, there is no separation of love and business. There are times that we choose to not do business so that we can focus on love, but that's only when the business has demanded so much of our focus, because we don't allow the business to be all consuming. But there are times when the business will demand so much of our focus that at some point we have to go, okay, we're going to push and push and push until we reach here and shut it off. And then we're what we always are, just treating each other with honor, esteem, and respect. And the love never stops.
I love that. Now, if there's one thing you wish someone would have told you about entrepreneurship, having a business, especially a business like yours that is service oriented, about uplifting people, but still working with people, because there's always that people piece, what do you wish they would have told you about what this experience may have been like?
I'm working on putting this in the positive rather than the negative. Because, okay, so we're making money, right? The people that I encountered, that I personally knew, who were in the personal growth business, talked about how hard it was to make money. I couldn't wrap my brain around that because I had spent so much money on personal growth. I've been to all the seminars and the workshops that I couldn't wrap my brain around. People don't spend money on personal growth. I am a person who spends money on personal growth. It's not so much what I wish they told me as much as I wish they hadn't. Just because I started to expect it to be tougher than it needed to be. So sometimes, when you talk about that, that's why I say those influencers, be careful who you allow to impact. And I allowed a lot of that to impact. So let me see if I can come up with something that I wish they told me. I wish they told me it was easier. It was as easy as I expected to be, because people are receptive to learning more about themselves and doing better.
Right. I think it's powerful, though, what you did say about it's not what they didn't tell you. It is about what they did tell you and how that can have a negative effect on people, too. I think people, women, everyone, but people listening need to know that in addition to getting advice from people on what their experience was, and that kind of know that that's their experience. And if you know something different, like you said, you're like me, I spend money on personal growth. I think it's a
Yes.
worthy investment. I believe in coaches and trying to figure it out how you can, get that money or whatever it is to get that support that you need that will move you to the next level. So somebody, including you and I, is spending money on it.
A whole lot of people are
Oh,
spending. So
right.
it's really crazy. I defied my own experience for somebody else's, and that's ridiculous. That's that's ridiculous. I don't do that.
Right. Exactly.
Don't do that.
Right. Now, what's the greatest lesson having a business has taught you about yourself as a woman?
Mm. That regardless of our recent history as women, um, and not being given certain opportunities or being expected to not be as powerful in whatever ways, because it wasn't that long ago that we were just expected to be wives. Wasn't that long ago that that starting your own business as a woman was looked at as, oh, you mean Avon, that kind of thing. That there were certain things that we could do, but owning my own power meant embracing all that I am. And in embracing all that I am, my power, my individual power, gives so many women permission to be who they are, that we can raise this tide in a much quicker way if I will stop playing small. So I had to stop playing small so that other women can have even though they don't think they're asking for permission. I see so many of them. The chains, the shackles, honey, are just loosed, and a lot of them didn't even know it until the permission is granted. So yeah, being everything that I am without any apologies.
That's powerful. I love it. Now, what does your support network look like? Who's there for you in business, in your personal life? How do you utilize your support network?
Oh, it's so interesting. Wow. Um, I have different people or different things that I turn to depending on my needs. So I have a childhood network. Those who knew me when, friends that I can just be with, who don't know anything about my business. They're still confused about who I am and what I do. They don't understand how it is that I can earn and not go to a facility every day. They are confused as all get out. They don't know what I do, and they are not interested in changing who they are. So learning what I do, it just gives them headaches. They don't want none of that. So when I just need to turn off and not have to talk business at all, that's where I go. Um, so I have them, but then I have this new network of people that I have uh, gotten to know as I am learning all the things that I need to learn to so that A to Z personal growth, which is my company, can continue to grow. Like you, connecting with the Elayne Flukers and so many others that I can tap into for their expertise. That's a beautiful thing. It's why I look at what you're doing with Support is Sexy. By the time you're a year into this, there's not going to be anybody that you're or any need you have that you don't know somebody you can tap.
Thank you. From your lips to God's ears.
That's a beautiful thing. And that's what's happening with mine. And for a long time, I also bought the lie that it's so hard and you just don't have success. You don't have support. So success is hard to come. Yet come by. I bought those lies for so long that it is so not true. All I have to do is reach out to people that I know that's what they do, and they do help. They want to help, and they're more than willing to help. And here's what happened though. when I stop holding on to the wisdom of what it means to embrace self and to live an authentic life of individuality, and I gave it very freely. When I did this private Facebook group where I have these private chats with people, or I just give these spontaneous coaching sessions and started doing all of that myself, I'm telling you, the world of everything that I needed was just right there. It's like people started calling me, Zara, how's it going with that? Do you know, I saw this and I can help you with that.
Right.
It's like, I need to stop with this lie of people don't want to help. And I've got to do all these things myself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just not true, because we've all been in a space where we've been afraid. That's fear. That we've been afraid that what we want is not going to happen because we don't know a particular thing.
Or that nobody's going to show up.
It's a lie. It's a lie from the pit. It's a lie. And when I stopped with that, is really when things got so much easier, and I started to enjoy this process so much, and I got to do more of it.
I think that's powerful too, what you said about the importance of getting out there before it's so many of us sit back and wait for things to be perfect, which it never is. Let's just say that. You're always tinkering and making it better, but getting out there and then people seeing either what you're doing, what you're trying to do, what you're striving to do, they want to come in and they want to help you. Authentic people who really want to help you will show up for you.
I'll tell you that it was, I think, I don't know if I told you this, but our website was hacked.
Yes, you told me that
a couple months ago, and some fellow in Morocco was very, very proud of it, and had all kind of badges that he'd hacked our site. Apparently, in the world, that's what that's how they get better at it. So he hacked it and wiped it out, and this was 3 years worth of content. And it was awesome, right? It really was. The content was off the chain, because my husband is a phenomenal writer. He's like the best. And a great editor too. So the content was just tight. So it was hacked, and I, for about 3 days, was in denial. This is not happening. This is not happening. This is not happening. Well, what it did was we were in a space where we were trying to figure out how to transition all our people to who we are today and what the Grown Zone is. And and it gave us an opportunity. We didn't have to do that. Right. We didn't have to bring our people along. We got to start this puppy all over and say, Grown Zone is relationship education. That's what we do.
Right.
No, we're not matchmakers. No, we're not whatever else so many people thought we were. The Grown Zone is relationship education. We help you as an individual to understand who you are and what your needs and desires are, where that all comes from, get you to where you are so good at knowing your own needs that you can start to establish some really healthy, a good foundation for anything else that you build on top of it, to establish some standards for your life and how you'll be treated, and establish the boundaries that are necessary that you may not have established, that have been contributing to the unhealthy stuff that you've been getting. So, we are relationship educators. It's what we do, and we do it exceptionally well. It's what we've been doing for many, many years. We just weren't calling it relationship education. So we've got the information that we give, in the books, on our site, through our newsletters, through all of that, through our video web series, through all of that. That's information. That's for most of it's free for all. Then there's the teaching content, where we get a little more personal, where we're able to give more in smaller settings. And then there's the one-on-one coaching, where the best in the world still has one-on-one coaching. Kobe, Serena, exactly. Tiger, everybody still has somebody who's able to see those blind spots that you're not, to be able to say, well, this is why this continues to happen. And perhaps if you, what do you think about if you're able to do this? And if I know your temperament, and you know your temperament, and you understand how you've been responding to certain things and the patterns that you've created, because we're all computers. There are certain patterns that just need to be interrupted. But those patterns being interrupted is not enough. You have to connect another syntax. There has to be something else that you connected to that is healthier, that's going to bring you further along. That is what we as coaches are able to do. So that relationship jump you've been getting over and over again, or that you, because we're magnets, honey, everything is energy, or that you continue to attract, then we help you clean that magnet up so that you can attract what you know you want and what you know you deserve.
I love it, Zara. Now, where can people go who are listening to hear more about the Grown Zone, the brand new, forget those hackers.
Yeah.
They hit the reset for us. Where can people go to find out more about you guys, learn about coaching, see your videos, all the great things you're doing?
You can do all of that at grownzone.com, GROWNZONE.com. And you learn all about Alfred and I there. And there's always something we're giving away on grownzone.com. Right now, it's an ebook, and it's an immediate ebook, 9 Keys to Finding Healthy Love, even if you have no idea where to look.
Now, is that something that I can link directly to also for people? Is it on a certain page on your site? You can let me know.
It is not.
Okay.
It is. It is once you get there, then it is a email submission.
Okay.
And after that, then it's a direct link that's sent to you for it to happen.
Okay, so we'll make sure we put that in a note so people can look out for that. Fantastic.
Yes.
That's great. And also on social media, it's Grown Zone as well.
We're Grown Zone everywhere. In Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. And whenever anybody signs up to our list, then they also get an invitation to come to our private Facebook group where we're helping people all the time. People come in with their personal stuff. They're like, look, I'm stuck. I'm having this issue. And Alfred and I are there, but there's also a lot of other people who are there saying, I experienced the same thing, or who have been in the Grown Zone a long time. They're a little further along, so they're able to coach people through too.
Right.
So, yes.
I love that. That's great. A place where people share experiences, because sometimes that's all you need. It may not even be the exact advice, but this is what I went through. This is what my experience was.
It's why I love group coaching.
Yeah.
Because even if you never ask a question, something somebody's going through, even if it's not your situation right now, somewhere down the line, then you'll be able to take something from those experiences and see whether you can apply them to your own situation. Love group coaching.
That's right. So thank you so much for your time. You know, I love and appreciate you.
I love and appreciate you too, E.
I have just a couple more things for you. If you think over your life and career, and you had the chance to thank one person whose support was critical to you personally or professionally, who would that be, and what would you say?
You're going to make me cry because it's my daddy. And daddy's health is really challenged right now. So you're going to make me cry. My father has been my cheerleader through everything. Good, bad, and ugly. Daddy has always, and I wish every parent knew this. I wish every person knew this. You know, we often judge people based on some of their worst moments. Daddy's always known that everything would change, that nothing is permanent. And he always made sure that he impressed that upon me, because I could be down on myself when I felt like I disappointed him. And he would never, say, yes, I'm disappointed in you. He'd go, sweetheart, it's quite all right. You're here to learn. That's why we're here. If you knew how to do everything, there would be no reason for you to still be here. So 2 of the things that he always impressed upon me was, I never have to be the best at anything, but I always have to do my best. And even before I learned it from Eckhart Tolle, whom I love in The Power of Now, and I revisit it regularly, Daddy would tell me that my best would change, that it did not. I might do my best one time, and the next time I might not live up to that. But if it was still my best, it's okay. And it gives me permission every single day that if I set an intention to do something but I didn't reach it, it's okay. Because there are times when I set an intention that I far exceeded. And when I far exceeded, then I'm not saying, damn it, Sarah, why'd you do so well? You know? To celebrate it all. It's okay. It's all purposeful. And there are no mistakes. Mistake is a myth. Failure is fiction. And as long as I stay forwardly focused, then all is well.
Oh, that's beautiful, Zara. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I wish the best for your dad, sending your
Thank
dad
you.
some love. I'm a daddy's girl too, so I know how that
Woo,
is.
girl.
So tell us, you tell us how to reach you guys and follow you on social media? What else can we do to support you? Is there anything else? And I'll put links to your books as well.
Oh, wow. Well, when you see something that's grown zone that you like, share it. Because as we say all the time, there's no fun in being grown all by yourself. The more people in your space that you can help bring along, because everything about Grown Zone is not just about romantic relationships. Most of the things in the Grown Zone is about personal growth. Mm-hmm. So even though our book is Loving in the Grown Zone, and it is about establishing relationships of honor, esteem, and respect, the relationship stuff is a hook. What you really get when you read Loving in the Grown Zone is personal growth. So in order to make life all the more fun, then you want to have as many grown folk around you as possible, so that when you do encounter those who are not, then you have the energy to be able to help them, give them what they need to grow as well. So share Grown Zone stuff. Get in the Grown Zone. That's it.
Now, before you go, what's a parting piece of advice from you? You've given so much. Let me just say that. This is like asking you basically repeat everything you said. But if there were one more piece of advice, I should say, from you to our listeners, what would it be?
Well, because, okay, let me give the statistic, then I'll give the advice. Statistics, we all know that most relationships, marriages, more than 50% end in divorce. Of the marriages, of the people who are married, 80%, one part of the two, 80% are unhappy. At least one partner is unhappy. So if that's the case, y'all, then everything we know about relationships, we have to scrap. We have to scrap it. We've got to look at it differently. We've got to start thinking differently. We've got to stop with all the traditional stuff because it ain't working. So while there's no such thing, here's the advice. While there's no such thing as a perfect relationship, that's no excuse to accept anything less than a healthy one. No excuse to be in an unhealthy relationship. You do not have to be in unhealthy relationships. Not buying the lie that everybody's got something or no relationship is perfect, so you got to deal with something. No, you've got to understand you. You've got to get with somebody who understands themselves, and you've got to be committed to growing. That's what you've got to be. And if that's the case, then each man is responsible for self. And if each man is responsible for self and you're both operating on honor, esteem, and respect, then you will have a healthy relationship.
And you will enjoy life in the Grown Zone.
And you will enjoy, because life is to be enjoyed. Live and love in the Grown Zone.
Zara, thank you so much. Always a joy. Hold on one second. All right. Thank you so much for listening to that episode of the Support is Sexy podcast. And I do hope that you got some inspiration from it. And the challenge is for you to do at least one thing. Take one thing from the episode, at least one thing. You can always do more, but at least one thing that will help you move one step closer to your dream. Whether that's launching a business, writing a book, whatever that thing is that you want to do, take something from this episode and move one step closer. And what I'll also ask of you, if you can tell me what you think about the episodes, what we've been doing, what you want to hear, what you like, what you experience while you're listening, go over to iTunes, leave us a review, and let me know what's going on. What are you thinking? What are you feeling about the show? What else can I do to be of service to you, which is what this is all about, to be of support to you. That's our buzzword, right? You can also go to my website, elaynefluker.com/podcast. So that's ELAYNE FLUKER.com/podcast. Hear more episodes there. Also have a bunch of great videos, tons of information. It's where I'm going to be spending a lot of time, and it's where I'd love to connect with you. So again, thank you so much for listening. I truly appreciate you and your support. And the most important thing I want you to remember is having it all does not mean doing it all alone. So now, go out there and create something sexy, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care.